a craze or a fad, if we continue on with it, the end result is most likely to reinforce a blind spot. Hi, I'm Warren, the rector here at St. Columba's. Glad you could join me for my message of the day. Fads, a craze of whatever kind, often can start very innocently. It might come as a reaction to a former fad, or it might be a reaction to a blind spot in someone's life. They feel like they've missed out on something, and may well have missed out on something. And so they embark on filling that gap in their life, but can end up overdoing it. It becomes a craze. Or we might just get sucked into some cultural phenomenon that's more like a fad. The problem with a craze and a fad is that it can reinforce blind spots. So for all the reasons that we might choose it because it's some good to us, by overdoing it, whatever it's not attending to, the blind spots, the weakness in it, the gaps, I should say, can become a real blind spot and can be counterproductive. The problem with fads and crazes is that, generally speaking, they lack breadth, if not depth. And actually, in the long run, culturally, it's easier to be caught up in an ideology when we get stuck in a craze or a fad. It sort of becomes a groupthink. You can't see the things that would help us see rationally that there's something missing here. We can't see. This is one of the benefits of a tradition, because a tradition like the Christian tradition is very broad and deep. And the reason why it's survived is because it has worked in people's lives. It's been over a couple of thousand years, refined, reworked, broadened, deepened. And so even if we're not particularly prone to do this, at least occasionally to let the tradition blow into our lives, to let it wash over us, to let some fresh air in, just to make sure that whatever we're doing isn't really more like a craze or a fad, that we haven't just reinforced our blind spots by whatever life we're living. And this is true in a spiritual tradition especially. It's very easy to end up thinking that what we're doing is really great and on the right track, but it's easy to end up a little bit narrow. That's one of the things I've come to value in the tradition. I've talked about this before, the way in which a tradition, you can trust it, but also to add that another little factor today is that its breadth and depth can come as fresh air in our lives. Sometimes we might come to part of the tradition and think, I don't understand that seems so irrelevant. And maybe that's true. But there's a good chance that we've just met something that will help us. For whatever reason, the fad, the craze, the way that we look at the world can't make sense of this part of the tradition. But that might be because it's an invitation to add something to how we see the world, how we live our lives, to how we pray, to how we see God. That's one reason why I, despite earlier on, when I was younger, preferring to try and make it up as I went along, I've over time come to value the tradition so deeply because it has come at various times in my life as a breath of fresh air. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.